Good morning. So the ET8, I'm supposed to be getting a replacement from Banggood. I've gotten a few comments on my videos about proper starting procedure for these. I primarily have experience with slightly larger small engines, and the thing about an engine with a flywheel or other mechanical governor system is that when you start them, you know, need to keep them open as far as they go to get whatever air you can in them, and then the governor will take care of slowing the engine down or stopping it from going too fast. Honestly, I still don't know why you would design an engine that's ungoverned that has so much airflow it can overspeed, but apparently the resounding opinion is that you should start it when it's mostly closed, and the instructions don't say that. Obviously I learned the hard way, but because this engine is largely, well, it's parts now if there's anything to scavenge off of it, because there's supposed to be a replacement coming. So I'm going to tear it the rest of the way down and also push the piston out of the sleeve here to see what it looks like. I don't have a whole lot of proper tools, so to push this out I don't have a press or anything, but I do have a C-clamp and an idea. So I'm going to start by getting the gas fuel tank off of here. Alright, and that's long enough, it doesn't, my wrench there doesn't reach, but I have the socket set. Or this driver set, so I can also this whole engine is getting loose on the base. It's one thing, and I think it's just because the wood on these bases is just soft wood. I have found that the engines work themselves loose on their wooden bases, and like I said, I think that's largely just due to the base being such a soft wood material. So yeah. The new design for the fuel tanks on these is actually really cute. The ET1 and the ETX was a nice tank, but a bit crude compared to the nicely shaped and soldered ends on these new style tanks with the newer brackets. So that's a nice little touch. And then alright, I had that all set in there. The pile of head bolts and things that were set on the base here while I was thinking I might get parts. Guess I will loosen these, but I'll need to take apart the valve gear cover here first. So I'm gonna flathead screw there. Huh. I get the suspicion that this... Yeah, that was holding something on here. Or in place. Alright. Oh, that's the... This is the axle for the gear in there. Well, good thing I don't have to put this back together. I guess I'll take these big pillow blocks off. Alright. Why that's so tight, but oh, there we go. I should have looked at the side of this. There's 3 bolts there. Also, I'm fed up with this ignition system being in the way. Every time I pick the engine up, it works its way out from underneath here. So I'm gonna... That's not the right size. Well, of course, that's an 8mm fitting, and I don't have the 8mm wrench on this bench. Well, then I guess it's gonna that switch is gonna stay put. That out of the way. So, alright, behind that flywheel there were these 2 bolts that hold the front part of that section on. Here's the worm gear with the cam and that's where this pin axle came out of that we saw on top. So if you decide you need to take this apart, don't pull this pin axle out. because that's where the cam is, and there are an array of washers and spacers in here. I've got 3. I assume that those are custom installed. I've got 4. Got 1 thick spacer and 3 narrow spacers. I'm assuming those are installed to make the fit perfect, so I would guess that you will have a different number if you open yours up. And then brass followers, and there's the brass followers, and then they're just in these sleeves that are hex fit and screwed into the front of the cover here. And then this is just that cover. This screw was over the gear there, so as I said, I'm glad I don't have to put this back together because now it's completely untimed. Very nice right angle helical gears there. Let's clear this out of the way. Some of those fittings are going to be okay to reuse. Now I'm going to use this case as a jig so that I can press that piston out. You know what? If I can get the O-rings out of there, that will make it easier to just slip this in. So these O-rings, there we go. They seal the piston sleeve to the rest of the engine. There's 2 in there to make the water hopper work, and I'm not going to be able to reach in and get that second one very easily, but the first one out should make it so I can just slip this. There we go. That slipped in, and then I can use the back of the go. That's about as far out as it goes there, and then I'm going to try and hook on. this little nub on the big end. There we go. It's pushing slowly out there. Cool. There. The piston out. Now, it's got the ring in there, and there's some metal shavings along the ring there. And because of the using the, oh come on, there we go. See, that ring's not in bad shape. Maybe I'll keep that in place. But yeah, you can see really bad scoring along here. So the engine basically immediately scored and locked up, and even if it was over speed, it probably should have run a little bit longer than the 2 seconds it did before it just locked up and exploded. So my guess, especially since these scrapes are so big, is that somewhere there must have been a chip that was in there when it got made. The head of the piston is damaged because of the way I used my C-clamp to get it out. And I'm sure that honestly the piston lining there isn't so bad. I don't know if I got enough light in there. There's one big scratch that matches one of those on the piston, and obviously a lot of filings coming out of there. Yeah. Got a loose pin on the small end, and that's got damage on the ends of it, so it probably banged in there, and especially because this first side here has such a big gouge on the across the hole for the pin. My guess is that because that loose pin, which all the engines have had loose pins and just it hasn't been an issue, must have rattled in there and helped put the first scores in to make some chips real quick. But yeah, it's not a big deal though. I mean, the engines have been overall really good. Disappointed in the ET8 obviously, but the other engines and the quality of these is nice overall, so I guess since we're still at this, we'll keep pulling it apart. Yeah. Alright. That's right. Underneath there is a 2.5s. Okay. Checking my recording time because my camera only does about 30 minutes at a time. because it's old enough, it's not technically a dual purpose video camera, but anyhow. Ground wire from the ignition system, the sensor from the ignition system, so this is the main body for these engines. They're all basically the same, built up. That way they can align the bearings on the blocks of the cylinder more easily. It also means that, like, the ET8 here has these 3 holes just in this part and that machining out, so they can make the base, the hopper, and these pieces in whatever quantity, and then just modify a few for the special different models, rather. So is it the ET7 that I dropped? I can't remember which one I dropped. Totally my fault, but the problem that I had with it was that these lower pillow blocks got loose and out of alignment, so I had to pull it apart and realign everything. So I think when I pulled that other engine apart, I discovered that the bolts for these lower pillow blocks were, or lower bearing blocks, were different lengths. So it's interesting. Go. Base tray, the hopper, this screw here, I feel like originally they designed that to be a set screw to hold the piston or the cylinder sleeve in place, but none of the engines I have used it for that. They've just had this blind screw in there, so I don't actually know why that screw is on these pieces, unless they, made the design and changed it after they started manufacturing and just wanted that hole to be plugged. because it certainly doesn't go into the cylinder to oil anything. But yeah, that is tearing apart the ET8, and hopefully when I get an update or on when my new one will arrive, I haven't heard anything about shipping. Banggood said they were going to replace it, but like I said, I haven't gotten an update on that, so who knows. But it's a fun little tear apart. I don't know if I'll break down this crankshaft any, because the only reason to do that would be so it's easier for me to store.